So here we are again. Another day, another dollar. Another day. Yay! How are you? Oh boy, I wish real life. I wish you were here. I could see you. We could have some poisonous food together and laugh about how fabulous our lives are. Hello, Linty London, Alicia DeMoss, Andrew Cruz, Justin Wynn, and L 2024. Do you have several new channels now, L? But thank you very, very, very much for coming in tonight. Our head honcho moderator is not feeling well. Good wishes to Sherry, all you guys. Hope you feel better. Yeah, I sure do. So Miss Blanche and Crystal Ingram and Hypocrite's Matrix and Something to Chew On and Amber Eyes and Phil Strange and Oracle 11, Ray Clay. Hey Ray Clay, Christy Hazelwood. It's Justin's birthday. Happy birthday, Justin. Angelos, hello. Thank you, Elle, very much. It's your new phone, L78. It's only on your PC. Okay. Well, thank you for showing up. And Mama Rage is just popping in to send my love, slaving my night away. Well, hello, Mama Rages. Good to see you. Gypsy Stargirl and JT. Oh boy, yeah, we need it, Mama. Mama. All right, so, got a lot going on. Look at these storms in Florida. Blasting away, doing some bubbling up, boiling up off the coast, coming right on in. Pretty much half of Florida is, you got rain, but I thought this was interesting. This little blob here, up here, kind of taking on the border parameters. And it did that earlier today as well. Oh, wrong one. This is earlier today at 11:27 a.m. Arizona time. Look at this blast in Texas. And this is what it looked like earlier today. So you've been having a lot of rain pretty much all day in Florida. Look at all of these extremely low frequencies that can control the weather, modify the weather, intensify the weather. But yeah, put those coordinates into the supercomputer and hit send. The nanobot activity, you can see right along the border. But what's happening with our airflow? It's circling around here, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and it's going up north, circling around, going up north, going east. Yeah. Well, they have the technology to control the air masses, and you're looking at it. So this is current time now. And they've moved this up, so now it's at the border of Tennessee and North Carolina. Interesting, huh? Oh boy. California is still getting quite a lot of rain, and the extremely low frequencies are really blasting away here in Maine. That is more intense than I have seen it. So, these extremely low frequencies, as I have documented with the papers, with the documents, with the studies, cause an awful lot of damage, mind control, physical, affecting one's physical self, emotional self, mental self, spiritual self, psychic self, all around what you are seeing right here. We are at war. Don't fool yourselves into thinking that we're not. We've been at war for a long time. What was the point of watching the climate documentary? No point, obviously. If you didn't see any point, then no point. There's really not much point to anything except what you do in your life, in your community, what you do with your inner work, becoming somebody who is trustworthy, living honestly and speaking honestly and helping those in your community. That's now our point. So I want, oh boy, farmers are really struggling now.
Already shut down some farms. There's an injunction on the definition of the law until it can be heard in court, since the League of Justice or whoever they are have filed a court case in January to try and stop it. So currently, small dairy farmers, the way that I first read the article, you would think that they were going after raw milk. That always seems to be the case with a lot of these things. But this is actually going after anybody, egg producers, anybody who has chickens that go up in a chicken house at night that may have a concrete floor that's easy for cleaning or whatever it is. And you have to go through a permitting process. And a lot of what they're requiring is just simply too much for the small farmer. So that's rule number one that's been impacting small farmers and is actually a part of an act.
Just want to tell you where this is happening. Turns out the government isn't just after raw milk. Farmer says Oregon is going after small farmers selling food to their neighbors. A woman operating the farm for 7 years gets notice that she can no longer operate without a water right, permitting processes to use your own well water. Wow. Government sure is getting very intrusive. But the point of the documentary was to listen to people in the field, the experts, the scientists, the saying, essentially, the IPCC is putting out fraudulent data.
Active court case right now. The second rule is one that I found fairly interesting. So in the state of Oregon, if you are using water, even groundwater, the only water that you can legally harvest and use without a permit is actually rainwater, okay? But they consider all water in the ground a resource of the public, the people. Even if you have a private well on your property, that belongs to the people of Oregon, not you. So what they've said is basically if you're using it for commercial purposes, you have to have a permit. Now, there's an exemption to this rule. And this is a rule that went into place back in 2021, and then it has slowly rolled out to the point where market gardeners with a half acre of land are now receiving cease and desist orders saying, you can't water your gardens, figure out another way to do it. So under this rule, there's an exemption for commercial and industrial use for up to 5,000 gallons per day. Okay, so these gardeners with a half acre of land are probably using 1,000 gallons of water a day, not even 1,000 gallons of water a day. You would think that they're saying you're a commercial business because if you are growing food for yourself, they still allow you to utilize, water from your well to grow a half acre garden, up to a half acre garden. There's a limit on that. But this is the story I read was about a half acre market garden where the lady has been growing food and selling it to neighbors. It's been her primary income source. And they shut her down. Christina Del Campo has just over a half acre. She grows blueberries, local vegetables, things like that. Her farm is called Oak Song Farm near Eugene. She's operated there for 7 years, and she recently received a letter from the regional office of the Oregon Water Resources Department. It was a notification that the farm couldn't irrigate its commercial crops without a water right. According to Mike McCord, the Northwest Region Manager, water is a finite resource. The system of appropriation has been in place since 1909 in Oregon. It allows us to better manage the resource by having a permitting system. So this exemption for 5,000 gallons a day, which...
Water is not a finite resource. They just want to take control over all resources all over the planet. Look into primary water, please. So, it's hard to do this and pay attention to the chat when you don't have very many moderators in here. But this is interesting. Restricting freedoms may be necessary to fight climate change. So, the restrictions of freedoms is already in the works. But wow, are we going to get an awful lot of restrictions coming up, unfortunately, very soon. The government in Germany may be forced to limit the available choices for citizens in order to battle predicted devastating consequences of climate change. That's the message in an opinion titled Climate Justice, published March 13th by the German Ethics Council. The Ethics Council says this should be done on a voluntary basis through individual self-commitment as an expression of one's individual freedom by, for example, voluntarily abandoning certain vacation, consumption, or mobility practices. However, the Council's statement continues. On grounds of justice, it can be morally required to contribute to measures to tackle climate change if one's own exercise of freedom interferes in an unjust manner with the freedom and welfare of others or of future generations. For example, through consumption that is harmful to the climate, the authorities may intervene with restrictions of freedom. In other words, if you cannot be shamed into behaving in a way deemed morally acceptable by your government, by the quote-unquote elite, the government may simply have to force you. Oh, it's all coming. All right, so I sure do hope that you are ready. And yes, Deborah Tavares has a primary water website. I will link below to that tomorrow. ban all airplane flights. Yeah, they think moral behavior dictated by a lie. Wow. It's kind of convoluted, isn't it? All right. It is very unfortunate that we have an awful lot of young who believe all of the lies. Not all, because there's an awful lot of young that actually, they've been able to critically think, and I think a lot of them have been homeschooled, frankly. But listen to this. And frankly, it is Stop the Crime, but is it... All right. Now I'm going to have to look for it because... Is it for her primary water site? Let's see if it even comes up on Google. StopTheCrime.net. Oh. Can I see primary water somewhere? Water. All right, I'm going to put the link in the chat. It went in the chat and okay. False water agendas. Toilet to tap. She was on it, for sure. But she has another website devoted to primary water. And that is something that I'm going to have to get from my bookmarks and another day, like tomorrow. But all you need to do is do some research on primary water. There's plenty of water below. But I guess it doesn't matter because trying to have adult conversation with an awful lot of Americans it has become rather infuriating.
What is carbon dioxide?
But I found this actually, I was sad for this young guy because he literally does not know what he's talking about. And this is supposed to be an expert witness.
I went to high school, but that's
What is carbon dioxide?
I went to high school, but that's carbon dioxide is a gas.
Okay.
I'm not a professional to talk about carbon dioxide so much, but
Well, you want us to abolish it, right?
no, there's always going to be carbon dioxide.
Right. So what is it you want us to do? Let me back up because I want to. I mean, you're here as an expert. Tell me more about what carbon dioxide is.
I'm here as an expert cross-country skier who sees the changes in my winters and the landscape that I live in Alaska. And so carbon dioxide is what I see it as is, it's a gas that exists in our atmosphere. And
What, is it the major part of our atmosphere? Or?
It's a huge part of our atmosphere, yes.
It's actually a very small part of our atmosphere.
Well, okay. But, yeah, I don't know. What are you asking specifically?
Well, you say we need to reduce carbon dioxide emissions. I'd like to know first if you know what it is. You want us to abolish fossil fuels?
I never said that.
You never have said that?
No.
Okay. What do you think we ought to do with fossil fuels?
What will we do with fossil fuels?
Yeah. Should we make any changes?
I would like to see a decrease in the use of fossil fuels. I think there's a possibility to use more electric generation.
Okay. Over what period of time? 10 years, 50 years, 100 years?
that's not, I would like to see it come as fast as possible while continuing.
How fast?
Sorry?
How fast?
I don't have a good
don't
answer
know?
for that, no.
Okay, you just think, well, how much will it cost for us to become carbon neutral in the United States by 2050?
I'm not a professional on that. I don't have an answer.
You don't have any idea?
No.
You just think we ought to spend the money?
I'm not an economist.
Yeah, but it's going to cost money. You realize that?
Yeah, but we've also talked about the trade-off of what the cost of climate change as emergencies will cost in the future also. So
Right, but it's going to cost trillions of dollars to become carbon neutral by 2050, right?
I do not know.
You don't know. You just think we ought to do it.
I don't have a great answer for you, but I think
Okay.
I would. Like
If
to
we
see
spent those trillions of dollars and became carbon neutral by 2050 in the United States, which you advocate, how much will it reduce world temperatures?
I don't have an answer for that.
You don't know?
No.
You just think we ought to spend the money and then see what happens?
I think as an athlete, I think if we spend that money and invest in our future, hopefully those temperatures stop rising and maybe the snow at least stabilizes where it is for me. But yeah, I don't think anyone knows for sure. I don't know anyway.
Well, when my colleagues invite witnesses to come to us to tell us, advise us on passing legislation, I always check out the background of our witnesses because I like to know who I'm talking to.
So he asks questions about tweets that this guy tweeted out about BLM, about defunding the police, and he won't answer any of the questions. But he clearly does, he sees CO2 as the boogeyman, as the enemy. It is not. The major lie about CO2 is that it is a pollutant. It's not a pollutant. We need more CO2. Plants thrive on CO2. So is it a surprise when they are depopulating the planet of four-leggeds, two-leggeds, all life, bringing us down to this carbon neutral, carbon zero? Nobody will be able to grow anything. And it's really unfortunate that these young people, now we were fed lies and we were young and we know it. And it's very sad to see this, in the young. And who invited him to be the expert? Who invited him to a congressional hearing? Because he clearly has humiliated himself. He's an Olympian cross-country skier. What adult put this guy up to it? Not he's a young adult, but really? Cross-country skier. Okay. Oh, well, State Farm discontinuing 72,000 home policies in California. Latest blow to the state insurance market. 72,000 will not have insurance, houses and apartments in California, starting this summer. Said this week, 9 months after announcing it would not issue new home policies in the state. California's largest insurer cited soaring costs. Wow, it won't renew the policies. It won't issue any new policies, and it won't renew the policies on 30,000 houses and 42,000 apartments. Those are very big numbers. That is going to create a whole lot of headaches for people, and other insurance companies have just decided to kind of pull out of California and, reliance on government insurance. And it's going to be costly. Campbell's Soup has known for years it was polluting Lake Erie, kept doing it anyway. Yeah. Discharging phosphorus, E. coli bacteria, oil, and grease into the Mummy River in Ohio. We are now, and we have been, this fascist government that I saw in the 80s, corporate takeover of government, 1980s, and it's only gotten worse and worse and worse. We've been a fascist government for a very, very long time. And corporations get a pass on everything. Is that fair? No, of course not. Okay, so this is I allegedly. Nope. Where is I allegedly? Oh, another window. I just want to show you once again what is going on. Crime, crazy people. Just be very careful out and about.
He was like full on like this, and then he would step back and he tried to open that one, tried to open this window.
This West LA resident is referring to this man, caught on camera, peering through her window in the middle of the night and violating her privacy in the most grotesque manner imaginable.
The first night when I looked through the window and screamed, I thought his movement was him running away, and now when I see the footage, he was not running away. He was just quite literally getting off on the fact that I saw him and shouted at him.
That was March 1st. We've obscured her face to protect her identity and blurred the peering perpetrator's offending parts. Police now on the hunt for the suspect they say is responsible for a number of indecent exposure incidents in the Mid-City and West LA areas from January through March. He even returned to this victim's home a second time.
The second time he came back, the sun was up. People were walking by, so I mean, it's truly just scary. That's the only word I can think of.
She says the guy managed to get into her unlocked car, then tried opening the door and a window to her apartment before she'd had enough, confronted him, and scared him off.
When I had a face-to-face interaction with him right here on the porch, he was definitely shaken up and sorry. He literally said sorry, and he hasn't been back since.
Investigators do not believe the suspect is homeless and is driving to various locations. Detectives think he's the same man seen behaving badly while peering into a home on the 5700 block of West 6th Street near the Miracle Mile earlier this month. And in January, when he's believed to have exposed himself to a woman on the 800 block of Northcroft Avenue in West Hollywood, then followed her home to stare through her window.
And he was sitting and leaning against the tree in our yard, staring directly at me, which freaked me out.
A resident in an area where the suspect has been spotted tells us she encountered a man lurking in her yard at night just last week, but...
Now, I would think that most people understand that everybody's got a camera, the Ring cameras. So what drives people to do things where they're going to be filmed, they're going to be found out, but they do the most lewd things as if they've kind of lost their minds? And I do have to wonder how many of these people are literally being pushed to behave in ways that, well, if they thought about it, maybe they wouldn't. All right, so we know already that an awful lot of people are being controlled. Controlled, yeah. Externally, remotely. And they can create this kind of behavior in people. That means we are absolutely heading towards an unprecedented era of madness. That's why you need to work on yourself and work in your community and try to build up some kind of support, because if you don't need it now, eventually this comes and people begin to feel the consequences of everything that is going on, and you will need support. Yeah. Hoover High associate principal arrested on child porn charges, but there were 2 people who were arrested in education, and there are so many arrests of teachers, principals, those in education that are being arrested for having relationships with their students, sexually abusing their students, child pornography, pedophiles definitely, and sick people. You know, the evil, sick people will park themselves in positions where a whole lot of people say, oh wow, you're so wonderful. And yet, what they are doing is not wonderful. And I do think that a lot of you know that, but that's why I say, and people get offended by it, which is really bizarre to me, or take personally, which is really bizarre to me, when I say we don't know who is good. And for sure, if we don't know our own self, and nobody else can know you if you don't know who you are. Nobody can know you genuinely. And that's why we have an awful lot of madness and chaos, personally speaking. Not me personally, but there's the collective, and then there's the personal, the individual. We don't know. We really do not know anymore. And when people who don't know themselves, they're so easily taken over by outside forces, manipulated. They're easy prey. So they could end up behaving in ways that could very well be shocking to an awful lot of people who think they know them. Oh, it's so unfortunate what we are living.
At Mount Carmel High School, where a teacher has been arrested on suspicion of sexually abusing a student. Jail records indicate 40-year-old Stacy Michelle Walker turned herself in and was booked into custody yesterday. Police say she sexually abused a student in a relationship that stretched more than 2 years, from 2017 to 2019. Police say the student came forward last July and an investigation was launched. Walker was arrested on suspicion of 17 felony counts, all of which were sex crimes. She is set to be arraigned tomorrow. And an associate principal at Hoover High School is facing child porn charges. 41-year-old Charles DeFreitas was taken into custody yesterday.
Oh boy. Beloved street vendor in Long Beach, California, killed by stray gunfire.
Here tonight in Long Beach, Yenna Ramirez was well known, very well liked around here. In fact, he was pretty much a fixture in this neighborhood for a number of years. But as you mentioned, his young life was cut very short with that stray bullet. A sobbing wife asks, why did they have to do it? Her husband, Yenna Ramirez, gunned down Wednesday evening in this very spot. Dozens of people gathered here in East Long Beach to honor the 37-year-old street vendor, known as the corn guy to the kids in the neighborhood.
He was, very humble guy, very hardworking guy.
Jose Fernandez is the victim's cousin.
It's crazy. I just seen him Sunday. I seen him here in Signal Hill Park. He was selling.
Selling like he had for the past 14 years on these sidewalks.
It's just noting that
But Wednesday, Yenna Ramirez was pushing his red cart along Eagle Street when an argument between four men suddenly erupted in gunfire. Yenner was hit by a stray bullet, as were two of the parked cars.
So an awful lot of people will say, oh, all of this is staged. It does not matter. It doesn't matter. It sure matters to the families who have lost their loved ones, but what we are seeing is more and more chaos. And the chaos is already erupting. So that is very real, and it's going to get realer. An old crime with a new spin on the rise in North Texas.
Terrifying than being met by armed robbers at your very own home where you expect to feel safe, no doubt. But a violent driveway robbery, also known nowadays as jugging, has happened again here in North Texas.
Yeah, we keep seeing it. It was caught on video this time, and only CBS News Texas has it. Here's our JD Miles.
This security camera video recorded a car turning onto Fox Run Drive in Watauga around 5 p.m. Monday. You can hear passing traffic in this otherwise quiet neighborhood with no sign of what's about to happen when two people jump out of the car with guns drawn and rob a couple who had just returned from a nearby bank. The couple handed over money and suffered minor injuries, while the two robbers fled on foot and the driver took off. Police were able to arrest one, but the others are still at large. It's very similar to what Mark Gardner experienced when he pulled into his North Dallas home back in September, and three armed men tried to rob him before he was able to drive away.
I hope that this never happens to anyone.
All right, so what they are doing is following people who go to the bank, and then they follow them in their car to their homes. And we've seen this kind of stuff. I have included it in my lives. Why do I do this? Awareness. It's not just in Walmart. It's everywhere. In your driveways, on the streets. Have that awareness hardwired. And yeah, you were practicing it for at least a year, right? Because I've been saying that pretty much for a year on a daily basis. So now that practice, you know that when you go out, it's automatic, that you are aware of your surroundings, who's behind you, on either side of you, in front of you. Maybe you did a little bit of research on body language and reading facial expressions, body language, hearing tones. I sense there's an awful lot of anger in this person, so you walk away. Road rage. You don't get yourself involved. Let the rager just do whatever the hell they want to do. Don't get all angry because people are violently crazy now. Yeah, and we're going to see more and more of that. So, a billionaire Florida real estate tycoon has been ordered by cops to undergo a mental health evaluation after posting concerning clips of himself firing guns and ranting about the Second Amendment outside his Miami Beach mansion. Patrick Carroll, a developer whose antics have garnered him 1 million followers on Instagram, and shared then a deleted clip of himself wearing a MAGA hat and firing a shotgun on a boat by his $19.5 million waterfront home. The businessman, 45, was firing blanks. However, the episode led his neighbors to call 911 on him, resulting in the evaluation order. He's mentally ill. See how it works? See how easy it is? Be very careful about your behavior today. You might think something's funny. You might think, oh, posting something and you're going to get an awful lot of views. Oh, a family member, a neighbor, a friend calls the police, then it doesn't become very funny at all. We are living in a tyrannical society. You do not live in the United States of America as an American as you have known it. It's gone, so be careful. New York City woman beaten, stuffed in duffel bag. Squatters sought after. Squatters? Oh.
Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, and I do want to get to a developing story out of the New York City area where police are searching for a pair of squatters who they say may be tied to the murder of a woman. Her body found stuffed inside a duffel bag inside her apartment. Very disturbing details here. Briella Tomasetti with our Fox 5 New York team joining us live with what we know so far. Good morning, Briella.
Yeah, Josh, this case is more than a week old, but police are finally starting to sort out some of these details. Having just flown in from abroad, the 52-year-old victim, Nadia Vittel, stopped by her late mother's apartment here in Kips Bay. It's right here in my rear view. And she was getting it ready for a family friend to move in. Cops say, though, when she unexpectedly found those squatters inside, that's when things took a turn for the worse. The NYPD has new insight on who may be connected to the murder of a woman whose body was found stuffed inside a duffel bag in her Manhattan apartment. Investigators are looking for a pair of squatters, a man and a woman, who they believe were staying in the apartment prior to the gruesome discovery. Police say 52-year-old Nadia Vittel was last seen walking into her apartment building on East 31st Street in Kips Bay last Tuesday.
It came as a complete shock and surprise, I didn't even know.
Gene Pompey is the building superintendent. He says surveillance video shows Vittel getting in the elevator and going up to her apartment on the 19th floor. A friend called to make a wellness check, but there was no answer.
So I went up, knocked on the door. It was just only the dog barking.
Shortly afterwards, the victim's son and two in-laws arrived to Vittel's apartment. When police got there, Vittel's lifeless body was found in the closet, stashed inside a duffel bag.
And who are they? Who are the squatters? I don't think it much matters in terms of illegal or citizen when it comes to this kind of violence because, well, for sure, if we didn't have open borders, then we wouldn't have a whole lot of crime caused by illegal migrants. We know that. But this kind of violence, I just hope that you're all prepared for everything getting a whole lot worse. It's unstoppable now, and it has a life of its own. All of these agendas, and unfortunately, none of it is good.
I'm just here to deliver a message. And the message is, don't think for a minute that what happens at the Mexican border doesn't affect us here. Here you have three illegals that should have never been in this country that have committed a very serious crime, kidnapping and sexual battery of a lady. They shouldn't be here. This is the same thing that we saw where the student was killed by the person that was here illegally. That's why we pay so much attention. Folks, our border is the ocean. There's no fence there. We are the fence. That's why we spend as much time as we do and dedicate resources to stopping people before they get here. In all likelihood, these three people came through Mexico. They didn't come through here. I can tell you that for sure. We would check in our database. But for them to be in this country, to be able to commit these type of crimes is unconscionable. The federal government has put the American people in jeopardy.
Absolutely. So, life after Roosevelt Hospital. Sorry, there is a Roosevelt Hospital in New York, but Roosevelt Hotel migrants stuffed into a 180 square foot micro apartment ahead of elections after spending months in luxurious hotels like the Roosevelt. They're winding up in more permanent housing solutions in other crime-ridden, progressive-controlled cities. In at least one case, migrants are being packed like cattle into micro apartments. Just before the election, migrants from Venezuela living in a 180 square foot apartment, single room apartment. They're taking them from Manhattan and they're housing them in these micro apartments in Seattle. It's a tight squeeze for the migrant family. The rent is $900 a month. Still $500 less than the average cost for a studio in the city. It's warm. We can cook. We have a private bathroom. It's quiet. Oh, wow. 180 square foot apartment's price is the cheapest you're going to get without trying to find a subsidized apartment. $900 a month for 180 square feet. Well, that's a holy shit moment. The invasion of... Okay, that's the apartment. The invasion of 10 million migrants is colliding with the U.S. affordable housing crisis. No kidding. With the lack of studios and one-bedroom apartments, some migrants are figuring out about squatters' rights in progressive cities and have called on other illegal aliens to invade unoccupied homes across America. I posted a video of that in my live last night. Oh, it's actually on my channel, Never Lose Truth. The fact is, cities don't have enough affordable homes, enough shelters, or enough money to house migrants for free. But there seems to be a push by Democrats to keep them in cities until at least after the election. Democrat, Republican. Flip side of the same coin. Who's paying the $900 a month? You can bet it is not these families. Americans. Terrorist caught illegally crossing border says he was here to make a bomb. Okay. This one was either this guy, this terrorist, was hit with frequencies and he just got caught by an agent and just unloaded everything to this agent about what he planned to do. This article does not tell you how that came about, but, oh, okay. Might this information be the information that Americans need to get even scareder about what's happening? A member of the Lebanese terrorist group Hezbollah was caught entering the country illegally at the Texas border, where he told agents he was plotting to make a bomb once settled in the country. Really? 22 years old, member of Hezbollah, comes across the U.S.-Mexico border, gets caught by agents. They said, hey, what are your plans? Well, once I get settled, I want to make a bomb. It doesn't sound plausible to me. It just doesn't. Basel Ebadi Ebadi, a Lebanese national. He told a border agent that he was here to make a bomb and that he spent several years training with the Hezbollah terrorist group. Oh, the Hezbollah terrorist group, the alternate name for Hezbollah, and he was taught to kill people who were not Muslim. Listed as 22 years old, transferred to the El Paso sector's Human Intelligence Unit for further questioning. Okay. Maybe the guy just likes to talk. Currently being held at the El Paso Hardened facility. Well, that's good, right? Well, we do have terrorists coming across the border. Media outlets all over the world, including the Jerusalem Post and the Hindustan Times, reported on the news that a Hezbollah terrorist was found to have crossed illegally into the United States. Members of other known terrorist organizations have been living illegally in the United States. Now, I don't post this information to scare people. I don't feel scared about what is taking place. But I do know an awful lot of people are scared. But you should have been doing something. Yeah, like screaming about that border being open. And Mexico reaches agreement with Venezuela to deport migrants. I think it's to deport them back into the United States. So Mexico signs an agreement with Venezuela to deport migrants and reach deals with Mexican and Venezuelan companies to employ them. I can't quite understand this article. So they sign an agreement to deport migrants and then reach deals with the companies, the Mexican and Venezuelan companies, to employ them. You're deporting people that are employed. Venezuelans have been among the largest group of migrants arriving in Mexico on their way to the United States. There are 4,000 to 5,000 Venezuelan migrants currently stranded in Mexico, mostly in the city of Tijuana. I'm trying to understand this. The plan lacks legal basis. Well, it doesn't even sound like it has a rational basis, but let's try to figure this out. So Joseph Trimmer writes, the Mexican government announces whole of government response to Texas SB 4, their immigration law. Response includes that the Mexican Army and Navy, that they will also be providing legal support to Mexican nationals that get into trouble because of SB 4. So that's the new legislation out of Texas that they're going to arrest and deport. Shame on Mexico. They should take the criminal aliens if they want to support them. So apparently the Mexican government is going to use 11 consulates in Texas to provide support, including legal help. Mexico rejects the authority of the state of Texas to protect its borders. They are fighting in the courts to keep the border open. I think this is Mexico trying to take back Texas. Mexico would like to keep the border invasion in the United States going. They make a killing from U.S. taxpayers. We all know that. But, all right, let's listen to this, this announcement.
México está actuando con mucha firmeza por instrucciones del señor presidente. Primero, nosotros vamos a proteger en primer lugar a nuestros connacionales. Y tenemos 11 consulados en Texas que tienen instrucciones precisas para brindar protección, apoyo, orientación en caso de que se enfrenten a algún problema. Y para ello nosotros hemos puesto a disposición un sistema de apoyo legal. Cualquier persona que empiece a tener ya algún problema, ahí estamos. Segundo, hay mucha confusión porque esta ley no ha entrado aún en vigor, porque hay una discusión en la Corte de Apelaciones donde hay 3 jueces, uno a favor, otro en contra y una que no se ha pronunciado, y va a haber una audiencia el 3 de abril donde se va a tomar la decisión final. Ahí nosotros mandamos una cosa que se llama amicus curiae, amigos de la Corte, donde estamos poniendo nuestra defensa y más bien los puntos de vista de México, ¿no? ¿Cuántos mexicanos hay en Texas? El 26% de la población de Texas es de origen o mexicanos. Es muy fuerte y por lo tanto, y también la contribución que hacemos a la economía de Texas. Algo que yo creo que es inédito para nuestro país es que se ha logrado un consenso político. Todas las fuerzas políticas, los legisladores, los partidos políticos, los candidatos, el gabinete, estamos actuando todos en conjunto contra esta ley injusta, discriminatoria. Y nunca creo habíamos logrado una coordinación en el gabinete tan profunda con Gobernación, con Seguridad, con Sedena, con Semar, todos juntos actuando para que cuando se presente un hecho como el que usted menciona en la frontera, estemos preparados para poder tener un mayor control en lo que se refiere a los pasos fronterizos, evitar este tipo de enfrentamientos, proteger a los nuestros. Y desde luego yo creo que algo fundamental, y con esto cierro, esta ley es profundamente inconstitucional, porque el tema migratorio en Estados Unidos es federal, igual que nosotros.
The law is unconstitutional. So what she's talking about is that not only the consulates, but also the Army and Navy are going to get involved so that Mexicans who have crossed the border illegally are treated well, protected, and stay there. It almost does sound like Mexico is getting ready for war with Texas. And wow, illegal immigration soars 541% higher on West African route into the EU. Well, again, I'll say, if adults in all of our countries, all of our Western countries can't see that this is a product of governments allowing this to take place under, the United Nations auspices, then, well, we all know that we're pretty much lost in the woods as it is. But gunmen in combat fatigues fire on crowds at a Moscow concert hall, which is now ablaze. What happened? But do you remember when, is this the article? Extremist attack warning issued for Moscow for the next 48 hours, with Brits and Americans urged to avoid large gatherings. This was March 8. It's March 22nd. So I guess the warning that was issued to Brits and Americans to stay away from these large crowds, maybe it was a little bit too public. They only did it for 48 hours, so March 8, 9, 10. It's the 22nd, and we've got a big problem. Going, Moscow does. was for sure quite the terrorist attack. 40 dead, 100 injured. ISIS is us. ISIS is us. ISIS is U.S. Okay? We created it, we funded, we train. It is our proxy terrorist group to scare the world. So, it's not good. I'll post a link to this. It's, if you want any more information about it, this was a live broadcast. It's a big terrorist attack in Moscow. Interesting that Brits and Americans were warned to avoid large gatherings, including concerts. Gee, I wonder, maybe ISIS called Biden, then Biden was, well, sleeping, so called Blinken, maybe the Pentagon, and said, we're going to attack. Oh, boy, I'll warn our citizens so that they don't get involved in this, which, well, 48 hours is not much of a warning. And yes, I want to thank Catherine for sending me this. I love it. Don't you wish all of humanity, all two-leggeds, were as kind and wonderful as that man? Unfortunately, we need more and more woke. Woke was a real word. This is Lily Tang Williams, a real word used during Mao's Cultural Revolution. Woke, my childhood memory, started with struggle sessions in a public square. It was scary to hear all the yelling and screaming. Communists always want to destroy family bonds. And I have been warning you all. So many people have been warning and warning, and nothing came of it. Z. Van Fleet. Both of these women grew up during Mao's Cultural Revolution. Got out of China, came to the U.S., became a citizen, and enjoyed a few years of freedom. And then they saw the U.S. turning, and they have been speaking out forever. Shareholders have just voted to let Trump's company, Trump Media and Technology Group, which owns Truth Social, become a public company which could earn Trump $4 billion. However, if Trump wants to use his money to help with his legal issues in a fraud case, he has to get special permission to sell his shares early. Very interesting. $4 billion. And where is it? Is it this? Ben Shapiro and another person is fundraising for Trump because Trump is claiming that he doesn't have the money somehow. So donate to a multi-billionaire. There are so many people who are suffering the consequences of the communism on steroids that have taken over our country. And they don't have the kind of money that Trump has. They don't have the kind of clout that Trump has. And they sure aren't playing a staged game. As far as I'm concerned, that's what Trump is doing. They don't get donations. They don't get Ben Shapiros who are fundraising for him. We should be helping out those who really need it. But an awful lot of people like protecting the rich when they are rich and they, oh, it's a big club and we just ain't in it. That's right. Russia and China block U.S. call for immediate Gaza ceasefire at the United Nations.
Council has voted against a US draft resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza linked to the release of hostages. Russia and China were amongst 3 countries that vetoed the US resolution. It was the first time the US had supported calls for an immediate ceasefire in the region, having previously used its own veto to block such demands at the UN. Well, this is how the US ambassador to the UN responded to China and Russia's veto.
Russia and China still could not bring itself to condemn Hamas's terrorist attacks on October 7th. Can we just pause on that for a moment? Russia and China refuses to condemn Hamas for burning people alive, for gunning down innocents.
Can't take the lies anymore. Can't take the focus on one particular attack, which I've condemned, a whole lot of people have condemned. And it goes on and on and on. The evil love to just beat to death their narrative. Getting it, sinking it into people's brains. Oh, that's right, October 7th. Now, I'm not saying October 7th was definitely an attack, but look, it was an attack. It's so hard now when you know Israel created Hamas and funds Hamas. Oh, United States funds Hamas. Israel allowed the attack to happen very clearly. And what happened? So the higher-ups in Hamas, working together with the United States and Israel, get the job going. But a whole lot who were involved. It was a matter of resistance to the occupation that they've had to live their entire life. Okay. But we're not going to say that. We're just going to keep saying they haven't condemned the terrorist attack on October 7th. And then she's lying about the burned bodies and all of this. Okay. Sickening, disgusting, revolting, repulsive. And it is. I can't stand it. So, iRobot, chilling rise of Chinese humanoid robots with calls for one in every home and workforce to be replaced with droid army. Okay. The robots, which use artificial intelligence and resemble human bodies in shape, are expected to propel China forward in its tech war with the United States. iRobot. Don't be surprised if iRobot, that fictional movie, becomes non-fictional. So Candace Owens is out at the Daily Wire after months of feuding with Ben Shapiro for daring to state the obvious truth of what's happening in Israel and Gaza. Well, Ben didn't like it. And, yeah, how dare she? And this is all, I guess this is one of the founding members of Daily Wire. Daily Wire and Candace Owens have ended their relationship. Bada boom. That's all we have to say. Owens' departure comes after months of tensions between she and Daily Wire co-founder Ben Shapiro over her promotion of various anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. That's what you're writing, Mediaite? After the October 7 terrorist attack on Israel and outbreak of war in the Gaza Strip, Owens quickly emerged as a critic of Israel's military operations, promoting falsehoods about supposed religious segregation in Jerusalem and all but accusing Israel of genocide. She's not the only one. Owens has lashed out against political Jews and theorized about a small ring of sinister Jews exerting influence in Hollywood and Washington, D.C. Oh, she stated the truth. So she has to suffer the consequences. And whatever happened to conservatives? Paul Craig Roberts. Conservatives. American hegemony in Israel's interest has eroded the original conservatism. Today, what passes for conservatives are trying to silence Candace Owens for reporting honestly on Israel's genocide of the Palestinians. They now use the tactics that they damned liberal left for using. Now the Republican Party, once considered to be a conservative opposition, is considering inviting Netanyahu, the slaughterer of the Palestinians, to address Congress. Well, at least the evil have a fabulous platform to spew all of their evil, all of their lies. And the Democrats and Republicans will get behind. this murderer, this mass murderer. We are so entrenched in the killing of Palestinians. We are so entrenched in the killing of babies and children. How many children now? Is it 16, 17,000? And it seems that that's okay. It's not okay in my book. And Americans should be horrified by what their own government is doing. A whole lot of people want to focus on Israel and how, AIPAC and the Zionists, they control, don't you understand, Carol? They control Congress, the White House. They're behind it all. Why don't you take that log out of your own eye? Is that it? Yeah. And focus on what your government is doing and how many are selling out to AIPAC and the Zionists, and start screaming about what the American people are doing. And there's an awful lot of people in Congress who are not Jews, but they are as evil as what's going on with Netanyahu, the IDF. There's a dance. Both partners are guilty. To address Congress, any conservative, any person of integrity would have to wonder why a mass murderer, an architect of the genocide of a people and a country, would be invited to address the U.S. Congress. Sickening. Oh, wow. This was a good video, and you can click on the link if you want to hear what they've done to Candace Owens. And Peter Navarro gives a press conference before turning himself over so he can be jailed. Peter Navarro, an attorney for Trump. Okay, so staged play that we watch. An awful lot of people suffer consequences that are very real to them personally in this staged play of left, right, keep the division going, get the right all riled up, look at what they're doing to all of these conservatives, all of these Republicans. And very obviously, on contempt of Congress charges, Peter Navarro. What about Hunter Biden? So they very obviously now put it in our face. The left doesn't care about the law, and they walk skirt free. The left then prosecutes conservatives, and they don't walk away skirt free. In fact, they even get jailed. So understand, we got here because how does evil spread? These dogs, it's very hard to concentrate. But this goes on pretty much all day. Yeah. Okay. Keep doing your best. Okay. I'll just play a few minutes. But boy, it couldn't get more obvious that we are no longer that country that we knew, where it's gone and it's not coming back.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a brief statement. I'll take a few pertinent and relevant questions, and then we're going over there. So the little story here Navarro's going to prison today. You guys will certainly focus on that little story, but what I suggest to you as journalists is that there's two really bigger stories that you might want to report on and even do some research on, because these are big issues. This is not about me. One of the big stories is about what is really an unprecedented assault on the constitutional separation of powers and the doctrine of executive privilege as a critical tool dating back to George Washington for effective presidential decision making. When I walk in that prison today, the justice system, such as it is, will have done a crippling blow to the constitutional separation of powers and executive privilege. The second and related story has to do with the emergence of lawfare and the partisan weaponization of our justice system.
And that has become very, very obvious, purposeful, for sure. And, you know, any kind of civil war, it's not like the left is going to be wearing blue and the right will be wearing red. It will be such chaos that, let's say Trump is in office. Don't you think that Trump will declare martial law? You think he's the savior? No, he's not. You're the savior. All right, I'm going to put the link into this, Tori says. But this explains a lot of the madness that we are living. I'll just play a few minutes of it. It's a 15-minute video. And we are undoubtedly being controlled in every which way. And that's why I've said, you know, be very conscious of your own self. And if you're feeling, you know, a little weird or maybe behaving in ways that you're kind of questioning, then do that work to get to know you, because you're being attacked. Now, are you being purposefully targeted as an individual? We're all targeted. Some targeted more than others. But you may very well be being changed.
Invented a way to mass create lightweight graphene. He actually had done it on a video in his lab that he has in his garage, where he just created it in a red cup. And so he had a contract with Argon Labs only 3 years ago where he put it together. Now, graphene is something that I've been talking about a lot to my listeners in respects to using that kind of nanotech, because it's so lightweight. And like you said, the mass is almost disappeared at some senses, on how this is kind of being used in a biological sense to assist and create what they call sticky feed on DNA in order to rewrite. And that's because, you know, what people don't realize is that the best quantum computer is between the 6 inches between our ears. And that has always been a target. Because, you know, like you said, quantum computing is able to tap into and perform in different ways. So having said that, with the whole, you know, graphene and quantum computing, we know that graphene is highly sought tech. And tech, you would say, to be implemented in tech, but now also being used in a biological sense. So how do you feel about the idea that maybe this, you know, quantum computing that is to come is actually one that would be endogenous to people by manipulating elements as such?
So kind of the way
that your thoughts work is that you have these RNA molecules in your brain, and that's kind of like what controls like your memories and your thoughts. And with some of this quantum technology, as you mentioned, you got a fancy little quantum computer there between your ears. We're able to wirelessly manipulate the RNA molecules in your brain and create kind of a wireless interface there. And obviously, this has been, a Pandora's box of a technology because, it can facilitate, us augmenting ourselves and really solving hard problems and getting awesome things done. Or it can facilitate a, like robot slave sort of an existence in a very dystopian future. So it's been kind of this dancing act of we're trying to get this stuff out there, but we're also trying to make sure that we are cleaning up our government majorly in the meantime, so that way this technology doesn't fall into the hands of the wrong people. And we got, evil vampires in the government that can directly manipulate the thoughts in your brain.
Right. So how do we, so that's the question. How do we discern? Because I've been telling, having been, under the wing of most of these bad people and working for their independent, private companies, because everyone seems to think the NSA, CIA, FBI, all that information, and even the Pentagon, right? We all know this. All that information is actually now under Brennan had been pulled into Global Strategies Group out in Luxembourg. And it's kind of like on tap. They have information that they want, pay the highest price, whatever, and it's only in the hands of the few. So in there, aside from data collection, where they're crunching numbers in order to find ways to manipulate the mass populations and how they can, just use people in general, they're also talking about using technologies as such, which we are already using, aren't we, Austin?
Yeah, there's been really, I would say, a smaller scale test of this kind of stuff for a while now.
So,
and
go on. Sorry.
It just underscores the need to which, like, our military and our intelligence apparatus has been very corrupted, and we need to get back into a situation of where, the military is going to be collecting data, either way, right, to keep us safe, but we got to make sure that we don't have these vampire corporations, also tapping into that data and using it for all kinds of extra nefarious extracurricular activities.
So.
And I'm afraid that is already happening. So I did put the link in. I'll put it in again. I only played 4 minutes and it's 15 minutes. So a lot of good information, but it's already happening. And yeah, evil people like to kill. The evil people destroys life. They just are about destruction. Good creates. Evil destroys. But there's an awful lot of people involved in the evil. This is absolutely 100% a satanic system. And only a very few have been able to escape it to the point where they're not contributing to the satanic system. So I would say virtually 95% of our population is living a satanic lifestyle, claiming we're not. It's very hard to get out now. We are so trapped in the evil's web that's why I keep focusing on you do what you can in your community. What is absolutely essential is that you don't create a lot of hardship and conflict for people, for other people. That you be someone who's supportive, someone who will lend a hand, someone who's kind, and for sure help those who are struggling. Evil spreads when good men and women sit around doing nothing. It couldn't be more clear why we got here. All right. This was sent to me by a subscriber whom I'd like to thank. Very serious warning, and he's absolutely right. Artificial intelligence, I don't know about the quantum computing, but artificial intelligence is already operating wide scale. And, and the closer we get to the election, I mean, everything is just going to, based on what I see, and an awful lot of people, even who are awake, do not see how extreme things are already. How it's kind of like we're now teetering, and very soon everything's just going to be flying off the rails. I hope you can get your psyche, to consider that and what you will do. But it's going to be quite dark. It's dark already. And I said, even when I first came on YouTube, I said that if we can't get these agendas stopped, or even slowed down, that we are looking at something unprecedented, and that we really need to work on ourselves, work on our strengthening our emotional self, strengthening our mental self, strengthening our moral core, and strengthening, for sure, physically, but more the emotional, the mental, to be able to withstand all of the evil that we're now living. And I think we're going to see an awful lot of people who will get destroyed. Also think about your own self. What happens when you get hit with a weather attack and your home is gone? Do you have the resources to recover from that? Do you have family? Do you have friends? Have you sat down and talked, with your support network about what you will do, and if these people are just not awake, but you could also talk about, I'm sure they know about an awful lot of homes, the fires, the tornadoes, the flooding. You could get together and have very serious, conversations and plan what you're going to do should it happen to you. Yeah. People are going to go bonkers. Yeah, and a lot of people are talking about the eclipse coming April 8th, and that's, biological attack on April 8th. Look, that's our near future. Attack after attack after attack after attack. Biological. May comes the signing of this pandemic treaty. After that, we have another pandemic. Lockdown, lockstep. Evil is not very creative, so they keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. So you would think that people would get an idea of, haven't we lived this already? But it's when you suffer the consequences personally, that's when you begin to really feel for those who are suffering the consequences. And there are so many different kinds of attacks out there, like this.
It's a very serious warning that you have to take very seriously. So please like this video, comment on this video. More importantly than ever, share this video with other people right now. Now, please understand, everyone is okay when I tell you the story. I have a relative who's very close to me who got a call yesterday that was very disturbing. Now, we back up. He has 2 children. His daughter was with him, and his daughter says, I'm going to go see grandma right now. And gets in the car and bye, see you later. We'll have dinner tonight. 20 minutes later, he gets a cell phone call that is from Mexico. And the person on the other end says, his name, we know where you're at. We have your daughter. And in his daughter's voice, he hears her screaming in the background. And I can't tell you everything that they said they were going to do to her, but it was absolutely horrific. And any man with a daughter, anybody with a sister, aunt, grandma, mother, anybody in your life, you would freak out when you heard this. So he was immediately upset, and the man demanded money, and it was a ransom. If you don't give us this money, we're going to kill your daughter. Okay? It's that simple. And what else they were going to do was absolutely horrific. So he starts asking questions, and he is freaking out. But the worst part about this was that it was his daughter's voice screaming for help in the background. You hear that? Let me talk to her. You hear her. You don't need to talk to her. You know we got her. You know we have her. What's her name? We don't need to tell you her name. You know it's her. So red flag number 1, okay? Now, cyber kidnapping and these virtual kidnappings using AI, using machine learning and artificial intelligence has completely taken off, and it is absolutely out of control. So my relative gets in his car and starts driving to the grandmother's house. And he's talking to the guy and gets on the toll road, and the kidnapper says, you need to go to the bank and you need to get there now. And he said, what bank do you bank at? And he told him the wrong bank. He says, I bank at Wells Fargo. And he said, do you bank at the one by the Walmart near your house or the other one? Okay. So he says, no, I bank in Rancho Santa Margarita, and I'm going to drive over there right now. So you better get there. I better get this money or she's dead. Okay. Go to the bank. We will tell you how much to withdraw and what to do. Okay. So again, you can start asking questions, but again, the profanity, the threats, the knowledge that he had for my relative was sickening. Okay. That was the scary part. Now, the worst part of this story was he gets to grandma's house, and grandma's out in the complex walking by herself. So he is freaking out because grandma has dementia, and he's, the phone gets disconnected. The guy calls back, and the daughter is freaking out more than ever on the phone. Okay? So, long story short, he's in the complex. The daughter walks out of the house. Hey, Dad, what's going on? So he immediately hangs up with the guy and realizes it's a scam. Now, you have to have a plan for this to happen, because when he called the police, which is his local sheriff, they said, yeah, we get this all the time. It's a daily occurrence, sir. We get this every day. He reported it to the FBI, who did nothing also. So I am telling you guys, we live in the Wild West, the absolute Wild West.
And that Wild West is going to become more wild. So I'm putting the link in, and you can listen to the remaining 8 minutes. Good information in terms of how to protect yourself. But this isn't the first time that I've heard this happening. Artificial intelligence, the way that they can take somebody's voice, and it's near identical, and do these scams. A whole lot of elderly are being scammed. A whole lot are getting these kinds of calls where we're going to kill your daughter. He actually says that you should have keywords with family members that only the family members know, so that if anything happens, that if you get these keywords, that you will know whether or not it's a scam or not, and whether or not your family member is in dire straits. But if people haven't been sitting down and really talking with their family, really talking with their friends about even just the basics, what to do if there's a fire, if there's flooding, if there's this, that, and the other thing, then see, the problem is that a whole lot of people just wait too long. And then something happens. And you're so incredibly stressed out that it's very hard to think. Very hard to think. So if you prepare ahead of time, if you've got your support network, if you know what you're going to do, then it's just easier to deal with the event that an awful lot of you, I'm quite sure, have not experienced, not suffered the consequences of everything that is taking place right now, and you will. You will. So start really thinking and preparing your psyche for... Look, we've known that this was coming for such a long time. So, a whole lot of it is here. If you don't do what's necessary to help fight climate change, then government may have to restrict your freedoms. Quite bold, out there, clear. Oh boy, our freedoms are going to be more and more restricted. Retirement crisis faces government and corporate pensions. If you have a pension, retirement, you can't expect to have it in the long run. That's the truth. That's why I wish that communities were a happening thing here. That families were solid, and could help one another. And I know that an awful lot are not. So what? This Social Security facing a retirement crisis. The program's payouts have exceeded revenue since 2010, but the recent past is nowhere near as grim as the future. According to the latest annual report by Social Security's trustees, the gap between promised benefits and future payroll tax revenue has reached a staggering near $60 trillion. The gap between tax revenue and payouts, 59 point something trillion dollars. And a whole lot of people are dying and losing jobs. And we have a smaller population, and it's going to get even smaller with this fertility crisis. And pop goes the weasel. And here, Gregory Mannarino, every video, I don't listen to them full out, but we are being set up on a massive scale. Expect a worst case scenario to unfold for you. But expect, the stock market to just shoot up. And everybody's saying, oh, the economy is just fabulous. Look at this, look at Wall Street, look at the stock. No. Oh boy, we are, really. 2 major newspaper chains dropped the AP. This is very interesting. Associated Press. What will it mean for readers? Apparently not much, but I'm really surprised with more than 200 bureaus around the globe. The AP remains the biggest brand name among what came to be known as the wire services, transmitting its articles and images to news outlets for a licensing fee. Two major American newspaper chains have said they will no longer use the AP, Gannett, the publisher of USA Today, and more than 200 local newspapers in McClatchy, which publishes the Miami Herald and Kansas City Star, among more than 24 other newspapers. Wow. Cost saving. It's a cost saving move. Artificial intelligence will be writing everything. That's what this is about. Getting rid of legacy mainstream media, which is fine by all of us, but is it fine for artificial intelligence to take over? No. A Christian group is luring students with free pizza at lunch. I'm going to delve into that tomorrow. I just can't right now because it's going on 6:50 and I'm getting very tired. Museum claims dinosaurs have LGBTQ history and birds are queer. The madness will not stop. You know, it's on autopilot. Everything's on autopilot now. They do not care about any of you. They do not care about me. They want us dead. And boy, they sure are. For those of us who are struggling and still holding on and not quite dead yet, the madness that we have to endure is really, you got to have strong mental faculties to deal with this. What the hell? The museum, the Hastings Museum and Art Gallery, is running an LGBTQ history exhibition funded by the Arts Council England, which claims that some birds are queer because they change their sex from female to male. The Telegraph, mainstream media, the Telegraph notes that the claims about birds, such as pheasants, are completely unfounded and have no scientific basis. Oh, my head. It really requires an awful lot of stretching today. Can't go there tonight. Nope. How about just a few minutes of Southern Prepper 1? Is there anyone left that will fight against evil that is destroying our country? No. We the people needed to be doing it a long, long time ago. And yeah, we failed. I didn't listen to the full 9 minutes and 22 seconds. He's talking about the House passing this, what is it, a $1.2 trillion budget? Jesus. Okay, here we go.
The fearless leaders in Washington are trying to come up with a budget, or at least a spending bill, and I think this is a $1.2 trillion bill. Now, they're spending money we don't even have, and they're spending money on crazy things. Some of these things I saw, even Lindsey Graham has some stuff in there for some colleges and this and that. And really, all that needs to be cut. We are totally stone cold broke, beyond broke. We're maxing out our credit cards. Just last week, or actually a few days ago, we went up another $58 billion. I would like to commend them, though, because like 6 months ago, it took us 3 months to do $1 trillion, and then 3 months later, we did $1 trillion. We're working on our next $1 trillion, but guess what? They might stretch it to 4 months. They might stretch it to 5 months. So, hey, you're doing something right up there. But let me show you what's in this bill. Just a few things. The bill is huge, massive. You cannot read it in the time they want to vote on it. I think they have a 72-hour rule where they give everyone 72 hours. It looks like they're going to push that aside and vote to suspend that rule. You physically cannot read the bill in the time the bill was officially put out to the time you're going to vote on it. That's insanity. They want, in this bill, $850,000 for a gay senior home. $15 million for Egyptian college tuition. So people from Egypt, insanity. You cannot make this stuff up. They want $400,000 for a gay activist group to teach elementary kids about being trans. They want $500,000 for a diversity, equity, and inclusion zoo. They want $400,000 to a group that gives clothes to children or to teens to help them hide their gender, like things binding. I didn't even want to go in it. It's that sick. It's that sick. I don't understand it. Why we are not doing something about this. Yes, we can go on our soapbox, and I'm on my soapbox right now. I go to the ballot box, but that doesn't really do anything because these scoundrels are Republicans, they're Democrats, they're on both sides, and we let this go on. But money going to these groups that push an agenda that is totally contrary to the Word of God. Totally contrary. How many preachers will mention this in their services? Bet you none. Maybe 1%. Then you're going to say, Dave, you got to keep religion and the state separate. That's what our problem is. We have kept it separate for too long. Some people say, well, we'll lose our tax deduction for our church. Who cares about the tax deduction for a church? I don't.
All right, I'll put the link in. I've been having difficulty with my computer today. Very slow. Very slow. So, I disagree with, bringing religion, keeping, bringing them together. There are solutions without, government and religion being together because, well, whose religion? Yeah. But it is very interesting how most churches don't tell their congregation what is going on. Yes. Was it the 1969 New World Order insider, Dr. Day, who said in 1969 what would be happening for the years to come in the United States, giving a lecture about what was to come. And I would think that most of you know what I'm referring to, but just in case, I'll post the link. You can read. The transcript from one of those who listened to this lecture, but Dr. Day started with saying, you will not have any pencils or pads of paper or pens. You will not record this. So, in the early 80s, Dr. Lawrence Dunnigan? Oh my God. Can't believe I can't remember his name. Yes, okay, good. I did remember. Whew. Yeah, hats off, Carol. You remembered. Sat down with a journalist and they transcribed his recollections of that meeting. And everything that was transcribed is everything that has happened to our country. So, yeah, New World Order insider, Dr. Day, he knew, because he was an insider, what would be happening. And this idea that the elite have to tell you what will be happening so that they can escape karma before they actually do it. Crazies. Okay, this kind of stuff is mind-boggling to me. But he did say that churches will help government. And that's exactly what's happening. So, no. We needed to fight the evil. Every time evil rears its head, you gotta nip it in the bud. We've voted for the lesser of two evil. That was a really shitty plan. That was not good. So here we are, and thank you for showing up. I sure hope that none of you ever have to suffer the consequences. I hope that you can skirt through, and be spared. But unfortunately, that's the kind of hopium that an awful lot can actually sustain their own lives on a daily basis, listening to all of that. Prepare your mind, your heart for things getting so out of control that it's going to make an awful lot of people just turn away and not want to see at all anything that's going on. Bring your best self. It may not look pretty, it may, if it's the best that you can do every single day, that's what you can do. Live honestly, speak honestly. Establish yourself as a trustworthy human being. As far as I'm concerned, that's the only thing that can save humanity. Of course, we need the individuals in the aggregate to do that work and have the results yesterday, but do what you can to help other people. Remember those who are struggling. Remember those when you're shopping. Pick up a couple of cans of food or something for the food pantry. Pick up extra pet food for the for your animal shelters. You can bet without having to do any research because, well, I've seen, but every food pantry, every pet shelter is in desperate need of help. And that's what we're here to do, help one another. So, thank you for showing up. Hope to see you tomorrow night. And on that note, be safe, good night, and good luck. Ciao, guys.